I cared for her depression daily until she cheated. Then she died. Now I am her murderer. Is it wrong to save yourself when saving them might kill you? I left her with food and therapy, but the world says I pulled the trigger.
It started with the winter coats. She could not leave the bed when the sunlight faded in November. I bought the heavy wool ones and hung them by the door. I made soup every Sunday and wrote notes on yellow sticky pads. I drew little smiles next to her name. Her voice cracked when she thanked me, but she never ate the soup. I washed the dishes and watched the water turn cold. I thought love was a verb you performed until the season changed. I carried the weight of her silence like a backpack filled with stones. Every morning I checked her pulse with my eyes just to see the rise of her chest. I believed I was the anchor keeping her from drifting into the dark water. I did not know anchors can drown too when the ship goes down. I cleaned the bathrooms and folded the laundry without being asked. I walked on eggshells so I would not break her mood. I thought if I was perfect enough she would want to stay. I thought my devotion was a medicine she could swallow. But the depression was a hunger that never got full. It ate the notes and it ate the soup and it ate me. I gave everything I had until I was empty inside. I looked in the mirror and saw a stranger staring back. I did not recognize the man who forgot his own needs. I was so busy keeping her alive I forgot to breathe. A stranger sent me a screenshot while I was buying her groceries. It showed her profile active on a dating app. The green dot pulsed like a heartbeat I did not recognize. She guarded her phone like a weapon, despite claiming she was too depressed to move. I stood in the aisle holding a jar of pasta sauce and felt my knees buckle. The label said organic, but I felt sick. I drove home with the receipt crumpled in my fist. I walked into the apartment and the air felt thick like smoke. She was sitting on the sofa scrolling with the brightness turned down. I asked her about the app and she did not look up. Her thumb kept swiping left and right like she was dismissing me. I asked her why she needed strangers when she had me. She finally looked at me and her eyes were dry and flat. She told me I could leave if I chose. She said it like she was offering me a coat. She said she did not care if I stayed or went. She said her happiness was not my responsibility anymore. The words hit me like a physical blow to the stomach. I realized the person I loved was already gone. The body was there, but the soul had checked out. I felt numbness take hold of my limbs. I knew in that moment I could not save her. I knew I had to save myself or I would disappear too. I ended the cohabitation that night. I slept on the sofa while she slept in the bed. The silence was louder than any argument we ever had. I packed my bags before the sun came up. I took the cats because they meowed when I cried. I moved to my parents' home with the boxes stacked in the trunk. Before leaving, I arranged continued support. I cleaned the home until the floors shined. I stocked the kitchen with fresh fruit and frozen meals. I contacted her therapist and left a voicemail detailing the risk. I called her friends and told them she was fragile. I left a list of numbers on the counter next to the keys. I thought I was building a safety net out of rope and care. I thought I was doing the responsible thing by ensuring she was not alone. I did not know that leaving was interpreted as a death sentence. I drove away and watched the building shrink in the rear view mirror. I thought I was saving myself from drowning. I did not know I was cutting the line. I cried until my throat was raw on the highway. I wondered if I was the worst person in the world. I wondered if love meant suffering until the end. I questioned every decision I made during the drive. I replayed the conversation in my head over and over. I looked for signs I missed in the rear view mirror. I saw nothing but the road stretching out ahead. I did not know the road led to a grave. Her friends reacted negatively to me in the street. We ran into them near the coffee shop we used to visit. One verbally abused me while people stared. She screamed that I abandoned a dying woman. Her voice was jagged enough to cut skin. She said I knew she was suicidal and I left anyway. I tried to explain about the therapist and the food. She did not want to hear about the sticky notes. She only saw the empty side of the bed. They formed a wall around me with their arms crossed. I walked away with my head down, feeling small. I thought truth was a shield, but it was made of paper. I went to my parents' house and locked the doors. I waited for the anger to fade like a bruise. I thought time would heal the cut between us. I did not know the wound was already infected. They posted about me on their social media pages. They called me a coward and a heartless man. They shared stories that were not true about how I treated her. They said I locked her in the house and stole her phone. They said I withheld her medication to control her. None of it was true, but truth does not travel fast. Lies run around the world before truth puts on its shoes. I lost friends I had known for 10 years overnight. I lost my reputation in the community we shared. I became the monster in the story they told at parties. I stopped going out because I feared the whispers. I stopped answering calls because I feared the judgment. I isolated myself just like she had done before. Approximately 1 month after breakup, she died by suicide. I was reading comments on my phone when the call came. The number was unknown, but the voice was familiar. It was her brother telling me she was gone. He did not yell, but the silence was heavy. He said she took pills in the living room. He said she left a note, but he would not share the words. I dropped the phone and it cracked on the floor. I grieves while facing public blame and judgment from mutual acquaintances. The news spread through our group chat like wildfire. People started posting memories with black ribbons. They tagged me in photos of her smiling. They said I broke the promise I never made. They said I owed her my life because she lost hers. I sat in my childhood room and stared at the wall. The cats slept on my feet, but I could not feel them. I felt like a ghost haunting my own life. The guilt settled in my chest like concrete. I could not breathe without feeling the weight of it. I wondered if I answered the app notification differently. I wondered if I stayed on the sofa one more night. I wondered if my absence was the final push she needed. I blamed myself for every breath I took after hers stopped. I stopped eating because I did not deserve the food. I stopped sleeping because I did not deserve the rest. I lived in a purgatory of my own making. My parents shared details on social media, increasing public scrutiny. They tried to defend me by explaining the cheating. They posted the screenshot the stranger sent me. They said she was unfaithful and unstable. The internet turned on them like a pack of wolves. They said we should not speak ill of the dead. They said mental illness was not a choice, but leaving was. My mother cried when she read the comments section. My father turned off his phone and sat in the dark. I watched my family burn for trying to protect me. I realized my acts of care were rewritten as acts of abandonment. The sticky notes were now evidence of control. The soup was now a bribe to stay. The therapist call was now an admission of guilt. Everything I did to help was used to convict me. I was the villain in a story I tried to save. The narrative was set, and I could not change the script. I was the ex-boyfriend who left her to die. She was the victim who suffered in silence. The nuance was lost in the noise of the crowd. No one wanted to hear about the dating app. No one wanted to hear about the betrayal. They only wanted a villain to blame for the tragedy. I volunteered for the role without saying a word. I accepted the punishment because I felt I deserved it. I let them call me a murderer because I believed them. I remain in emotional distress, grappling with guilt and social condemnation. I maintain I did my best under impossible circumstances. I walk down the street and feel eyes on my back. I wonder if I should have stayed and suffered. I wonder if love means letting yourself be destroyed. Is it ethically defensible to prioritize your own emotional well-being? Can you leave a mentally ill partner who has broken trust? What if staying might have been a protective factor against suicide? I ask myself these questions every night before sleep. I see her face in the dark when I close my eyes. I see the green dot on the dating app pulsing. I see the pills on the living room table. I hear the friends screaming in the public street. I hear the brother voice on the telephone line. I carry the weight of the world on my shoulders. I do not know if I am a murderer or a survivor. I only know that I am still here and she is not. The guilt is a tenant that does not pay rent. It lives in my chest and eats my food. I wake up and it is the first thing I feel. I go to sleep and it is the last thing I see. I would give anything to change the ending, but the story is written in stone now. I am the ex-boyfriend who left. She is the girl who died, and the truth is lost somewhere in between. I live with the question every single day. Would you stay with a cheating partner if leaving might mean they die? I do not have an answer that lets me sleep. I only have the silence and the memory of her voice. I only have the ghost of the man I used to be. I only have the knowledge that I tried and it was not enough. I am still waiting for forgiveness that will never come. I am still waiting for an absolution that does not exist. I am still here carrying the burden of her choice. Hello, I'm Dr. Julian Reed. What we observe here is a tragic convergence of ambivalent attachment with depressive self-sabotage. The woman in question, grappling with seasonal depression, exhibited a pattern wherein intimacy became both a lifeline and a threat. Her engagement with a dating application while receiving devoted care was not merely infidelity, it was a subconscious test of boundaries, a desperate attempt to confirm her deepest fear that she was unworthy of sustained love. When confronted, her refusal to engage and passive acceptance of his departure reflects a depressive cognitive schema where rejection is anticipated, even orchestrated, to validate internal narratives of abandonment. This is not malice, it is the pathology of depression speaking through action. His feelings of guilt, conflict, and hurt are not only understandable, are the expected emotional residue of loving someone whose illness distorts the very architecture of connection. He provided tangible support chores, meals, handwritten notes with doodles. These were acts of profound care, not transactional gestures. When betrayal surfaced, he did not abandon her without safeguards. He cleaned her home, stocked her kitchen, prepared meals, and activated her support network therapist, friends. This is not the behavior of someone who fled responsibility. This is the behavior of someone who recognized the limits of what one person can sustain without losing themselves. Yet here lies the dark compassion. I must extend her suicide was not caused by his departure, though it may feel that way in the quiet hours. Depression is a thief of context. It rewrites history to place blame where love once stood. Her friend's anger, while painful, is grief speaking in the only language it knows: accusation. They needed a reason, and in the absence of understanding mental illness, they found one in him. Social media amplification by his own parents, though likely well-intentioned, only deepened the wound, turning private grief into public spectacle. But let us sit with the moral ambiguity, as we must. Is it ethical to remain in a relationship that erodes your own mental health, even when your presence might serve as a protective factor for someone you love? Can one be both compassionate and self-preserving? Or does love, in its most demanding form, require a sacrifice that borders on self-annihilation? I leave you with this: when someone we love is drowning, do we jump in and risk being pulled under together? Or do we throw a lifeline from solid ground even if they cannot see it, even if they push it away? What would you have done?